Hello, everybody. This is my first time going live in a while. So hopefully, I think it's Khethiwe. I'm really bad at name pronunciation, so apologies if I got that wrong. Decided to go for the orange lipstick today. Brush my hair for you guys. Oh, she's here. Okay, you should be able to request to join, or I just sent you an invitation. Approve. Unable to join. Yay!
Hi. Just gonna get my house clear out of the way of the shot there.
Let me put in my AirPods as well, actually, because then
awesome.
more connected. Oh, somebody's just joined us. Comment below, whoever it is.
So happy to see you. I love your red lipstick, by the way, or a coral kind of red, orangey red.
Yeah, it's actually Morange, they call it.
Oh, Morange.
Morange. How sassy. I know, I saw you and I was like, she looks a bit glam and glowing. I was like, I feel like I need to do something. I
did it just for you.
I'm like, you can't beat brushing your hair and putting on some lipstick. You can't beat it. But it is 5 p.m. here, so I am literally ending my day as you are starting your day, which is beginning. Fun.
I've got my lemon water in the morning.
I have a whole host of drinks here that have been from today. I won't show you the mess.
Amazing. Amazing.
But yeah, introduce yourself to anyone joining us live or watching the replay. If you're watching the replay, come say hey. We'd love to know that you are here. And yeah, let's get this thing rolling. So yeah, tell everyone about yourself that doesn't know you already.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. So it's Khethiwe. I know my name is a little different to pronounce, so Khethiwe.
Yes. I love the name. I love the pronunciation even more. I feel like it's so bold and potent, and yeah, I love it.
It is. My parents named me well. It actually means the chosen one. So I'm living up to my potential now. I know. They gave me quite the name. They gave me quite the name. So no pressure there. I think I'm doing pretty well though now.
You are.
Amazing. So I live on the west coast of Canada. So I live in Vancouver. If you guys know, on the west coast, it's beautiful over here. And basically, I identify right now as a healer, and it's a bit hard for me to kind of nail down who am I? But for the sake of marketing, keeping it simple, I'm a healer. I'm a spiritual business coach. I help people really release what is in the way of them accessing their highest potential, becoming the best version of themselves as far as releasing old paradigms, releasing old trauma, and actually becoming who their soul came here to be, right? So I help you do the work so you actually can become that person and activate that person. And usually people that are attracted to my circle are usually also spiritual entrepreneurs. They don't have to be, but they usually tend to be. So I tend to work with a lot of people that are already healers or psychics or business coaches or something, or very spiritual in their business, whether it's saving the world in some sort of way is usually what my clients are about. So that's what I do in a nutshell. Yeah.
Amazing. And obviously we are here to talk about, because what did you post in your story? I can't remember what it was, but I was it activated something in me that was on the precipice, when it's something that's been building and bubbling and culminating, and then there's a trigger and activator, it's and then it just explodes, and the shift happens or the realization happens, and you're whoa, I wasn't prepared for that.
Love that.
Here we go.
My energy tends to have an effect on people, I'm learning.
Sure does.
But I love your content, by the way. I just wanted to say, I've been following your page for about a year, I think now, and I just love your growth. You've grown so much. I've seen your growth, and it's the same conversation we're having, right? But making a lot of money, which is great, and then realizing, hey, maybe I'm not as fulfilled as I thought I would be. Hey, there's other levels to this and a deeper. So I've seen your journey as far as that goes, and we're going to talk about that, I'm sure. But my post was really
Definitely.
about, it wasn't about you, but it was triggered by seeing people who lately, especially, I've noticed people who I've been following for a while, and a lot of them are business coaches or money
Mm.
teachers or stuff. It's stuff in that realm of like success and
Mm-hmm.
like what society,
Manifestation.
yeah, and what
Yeah.
society deems as successful, which usually is
Mm-hmm.
money, is a wait list of clients, is the Birkin bags, right? Which
Yeah.
is all well and good. I'm not dissing that.
Mm-hmm.
I love a good fashion moment. I love a good travel moment. I love all those things. But their
Yeah.
brands were around that, centered primarily
Mm.
around that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like this is what we're doing. And I've seen a lot of them lately switch gears up or come out and be like, I wasn't
Mm.
happy, or I wasn't being in integrity. I wasn't being honest about how much money I was
Yeah.
making. I wasn't being honest about how many clients I was signing up. I was pretending to be more successful or only highlighting those
Ah,
aspects of myself. So
interesting.
people have been talking about it themselves, right? And
Mm.
it's something that when you're like a intuitive empath, whatever you kind of, you can kind of feel it from people. You kind of know
Mm.
like, mm, something
Something's
here
not
isn't
right here.
right. Yeah. And it's not my business
Something's
to call
off.
people out or like,
Yeah.
I'm not about that. But it's like, oh, okay, they're finally coming out and saying it. So that
Mm.
post like was like, I've been seeing this trend a lot, and here's
Mm-hmm.
why this is happening, because in the energies of this earth that we've moved into and are moving into even more as time goes on, the energy of like only being successful in the 3D money, as many
Mm.
clients as possible, like that cannot sustain itself anymore.
No.
Especially if you're somebody who is spiritual or your soul wants you to activate that part of yourself in this life. It is extremely difficult
Mm-hmm.
to operate in
Mm-hmm.
that timeline, right? And it's like people are being forced off the path, or something has to happen to them to like totally wake them up. And
Mm.
so that post was about how if you are a spiritual, like a light worker or a spiritual person, and you've been building a business for a while and you're not seeing the results, you're seemingly not seeing the results. You're not seeing the $1 million month 30 days after you launched your program. You didn't have $100,000 launch. You didn't, right? Like people get caught up in these comparisons all the time.
Yeah.
It's so easy to, and I get it. I've been there, but it's like
Yes,
you're building
for
things for
sure.
longevity,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So especially spiritual people, like if you're building a calling or a business or whatever, and things aren't popping off as fast as you think
Mm.
that they should be, you're actually doing things the right way.
Yes, I was actually, you know what? I was thinking about this. It's really interesting you said that. And so much, so many like popcorn moments as you were talking, like pop, pop, pop,
Mm-hmm.
so many things that I was like, yes, yes, yes. Um, so I was speaking to my ex mentor, who's like a really good friend now, and like we chat all the time, and we were like, should we just have like a catch up call? Let's just like hop on Zoom and catch up. And it's sort of like, bless her, became like a coaching call again, because I feel like we just went back into that,
Right?
as you do naturally.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like open and she was open, so we just went with the flow. And I was watching a I won't mention the name because then I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Okay, so I was watching the replay of like a Q&A. Let's say that. I was watching the replay of a Q&A, and I've watched a few of these Q&As, and I noticed that people that I look up to in the coaching world, and it's so easy to put people on a pedestal. Like,
Oh yeah.
I'd like to say that I don't do it anymore, but I still do it.
Same.
Still, yeah, still working with that. And these like incredible like women were being interviewed, and they were talking about stuff that I was so taken aback by, because it's not, and I'm an open book, like as anyone that follows me probably knows by now. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like, for some people they share it after they've gone through it. I totally get that. Like for me, I don't know whether it's my human design or my gene keys, doesn't matter. I share it as I go through it, because I don't know, I think my social media is like my diary at this point. And everyone else just gets to read my diary. So you're
Yes.
welcome. But
Yes.
I'm not seeing like so I'm drawn to other people that are vulnerable and open too. Like if somebody isn't, you know, if everything seems like squeaky clean and perfect, instantly I'm like closed off. I'm like, don't merge together. Um, so anyway, like obviously I'm not judging anyone for not being completely vulnerable. There's, you know, there's healing that even has to be done to get to that point. But what I said to my mentor, getting to the point, is that I am so glad that I didn't get to 7 figures, 8 figures that these coaches are at that are being interviewed, and get to the point that they're at where they're like, holy shit, excuse my French, I have become so consumed by money and the mind, and I've gone so far into it. I want to get out, but like, where do I even begin with getting out? And for me, it was like, it was almost easier because I came to a point, I assume most people watching this know my story and my journey, but I came to a point of such intense burnout and resentment because of that and all the other things that come with it. And my body just kind of like shut down and was like, no, we're not doing this anymore. So it was like step back. Like it was like the universe pulled the rug from beneath me. Like we're stepping back from this. And so I didn't have a choice but to switch off from my mind or my ego, because I couldn't listen to my body. I was having this conflict going on, and frankly I was too exhausted to listen to my mind or my ego anymore. So I was, you know, not that I'd wish burnout on anyone, but promise you, like whoever's listening to this live or on the replay, like whatever you're going through right now, any extreme pain or discomfort or the void, the unknown, all of that, you know, juicy gunky stuff, it is like so happening for a reason. And I know that's such a cliche, but it really is. And like I'm so glad that I didn't continue climbing that ladder or mountain to get to the top and be like, I'm so unhappy, and now I have a team, and now I have hundreds of people, and now I have this ginormous cage. How the hell do I get out? Like that, and that is like such a blessing. And now I am exactly what you said, is like if things aren't happening as quickly as you'd like them to, thank God. You know,
right.
That was this whole thing about, do you remember when like you remember, it's still a thing, but we're I don't want to say we're past it because that sounds like superior. I don't mean it in a superior way, but like I remember when I was consumed by the whole quantum leaping thing. I think it was about a year ago.
I totally was too.
Everyone was talking about like quantum leap, woo! Let's have a quantum leap, woo! You know, let's just bypass all the stuff, and whoop,
yes,
I'm there.
Yes,
like, everyone's obsessed with quantum leaping. Comment below if you can relate. And if you're still there, like absolutely zero, this is no judgment, like judgment free zone. But it's like, be careful what you wish for as well. Like be careful what you wish for, because like I wanted to make loads of money in my business from ego, and I did it. But then I was left more depressed, more miserable, more empty, more lost than I ever was before. Now, at the time, hi Hanan, hi Monica. At the time, I was like, why the fuck is this happening? This is so shit. Why me? Like all the victim stuff, like almost like depression, like really bad, like the lowest point of my life. But from that, I was able to strip everything away, literally like blank canvas, and I don't want to say start again, because you don't start again. You just start from a different point. And you've got everything now in your toolbox, all of the experience that you've learned before that you can take with you. And now it's like, I am so glad, so glad that I have this space and the I don't even want to say time, because that's not even a thing, but okay, for the sake of human experience, I have the time to create this safe foundation that we're talking about today, to then, you know, maybe I quantum leap from a safe foundation. Great, at least I'll have the nervous system regulation, the emotional intelligence, the self-trust, all of the healing that I've done to hold, because that's what we're talking about here, isn't it? It's about the holding, and not like the holding, not the grasping, but like the holding. Anyway, that was like a big, like, no, it wasn't really a diversion, but
no, it was totally on point. It was totally on brand. And it's funny, I actually did a post that said exactly what you just said. We're like, we're just mirroring each other here. I said, you quantum leap, like, it was a post like 6 months ago, something like, you quantum leap when you feel safe. Like, it literally was like almost exactly what you just said. Like, I wrote a post about that because, and again, safety. So for me, like, I have not made the money that you've made, but I feel the money really, really close by because I've created safety in myself, right? It's like, I know that in the next 6 months, like, yes, a lot of money is going to land. Like, I can feel it. And it's taken me, like, I've made money in my business, but not like, you know, $500,000, like, you know, like I haven't gotten to that point in my business at this point yet, but it's coming. And it's like, I can feel I had to go through so much safety because of like my own growth, like my own path with money, how I grew up with money, like my ancestry. So I work a lot with people with ancestral stuff as well, because it's something that I've had to do also, right? So, you know, my mom's side of the family is African, and they were very like poor, impoverished, you know, not slaves, but as close to being a slave as you can, like working for, you know, a cent a day or something like that, right? And like you just get room and board. Right. So there's a lot of struggle from that line. And then my father's line was very like, you know, like in the Depression, like there were a lot of like poor stuff, like 3, 4, 5 generations, right? Struggle. They are also from like Ukraine, right? They ran away from war, you know, 100 years ago. So, and again, we're circling back to that again, right? So it's a lot of trauma passed down, and everyone can probably have stories of this, right? In your own family, you don't have to look most likely too far back to find these things, right? So it really was a big thing for me around money and safety and reprogramming this. So now I'm at a place where I do feel safe regardless of like how much money I have or don't, because I used to have panic attacks. I used to think about money 24/7. Like it was just a loop. Like, I don't have enough. How am I going to pay for this? Like, it was like insane, right? So I'm at a point now where I, you know, even if I don't have the money for something right away, like I'm not going into these panicky, oh my God, I'm going to die. Literally, my body was like, you're going to die. You're going to starve. You're going to be under a bridge in 30 days. And, you know, like that
30 days is like tomorrow. Mine's like, I will click my fingers and you'll be there. And I'm like, shit, no.
You'll be under a bridge. Yeah, right? So it's really deep shit. And I'm sure so many people can relate to this, right? Yes. So creating that feeling of safety, for me personally, came from energy work, ancestral clearing. Now I'm getting into even past life stuff as my gifts activate. I'm seeing past life things that I'm helping people integrate in my own stuff. That. So it's evolving and expanding, right? But I really deeply feel called to helping people like release that. And then of course you cultivate and tap into your source, God, whatever you relate to as well, right? To bring that into your body and to be guided and feel safe in that way. But it's deeper than just, okay, I'm gonna follow a strategy and make a lot of money. You totally can, and it works, right? It works. But if you don't feel safe, it doesn't matter how much money you make, you're always not gonna feel safe. And I'm sure you can probably have more experience on that that you can talk about, right?
Yeah, literally I've gone from like making and you know, it's taken me a lot of healing to release the shame and judgment around the amount of money I've lost. Like you think like, oh my God, losing like 20,000, like how do you even do that? And then you do that, and then you're like, losing 50,000, how do you even do that? And then you do that, and then you're like, losing 100,000, how do you even do that? And then you do that, and then you're like, okay, there's a pattern happening here. Like,
Yeah,
let me just see. If I'm gonna get real with myself, I am creating this, so how am I creating this? And that is literally what has been coming through me recently. That is so, the reason why I share so openly as things come through is because, like, I don't want to say desperately, because it's not desperation, but like, I so want for people to, like, and I don't know, we'll talk about this, but like, I don't know if there's a misconception around like healing or trauma work or anything. Like, I'm not trauma informed. I'm not going to say that I am, but there's definitely I definitely had a fear around even healing, and like, you know, speaking to my inner child and seeing what she had to say. Like, I even like journaled about this earlier. Like, I used to just suppress her because I was like, I can't hold her. Like, I don't, like, what if she starts crying? What am I gonna, like, there's a whole process to even, you know, and there is it's so, like, healing is so tender, and it's so nuanced, and it's like, it's so, you know, when people are like, you know, just hold your inner child, just speak to your inner child, and you're like, I don't even feel
like,
safe to do that.
like, what?
Yeah, like, you need even safety to feel like you can even do that. And like, I did not have trust in my adult self at all, like at all. Like, I thought I did. And like, the body, because I feel like people's initiation into personal development is the mind. It's like,
yes,
mindset
absolutely.
work.
Absolutely. And it
you're
has
like,
to be that way, because you're not going to be like, so
True.
we're going to have an ego death, and we're going to question everything, and there's a bunch of friendships, and maybe exit a relationship, and yeah, your life's going to fall apart. Sounds good? All right, cool. Like,
very true. That is very, okay, you make a good point. Imagine you're like, so we're gonna like shift the energies in the body, and you're like, sorry, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What is this? Voodoo.
Exactly.
Not interested.
No,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yeah, not down for that weird shit. Yeah, so you're like, you learn about growth mindset and all that stuff, and then you're like, okay, I got so far with the mind.
Yeah.
I'm aware now, you know, I'm consciously aware. And then, I mean, what happened for me is then I started to do like the somatic healing, and like the body really does talk. Like, the body like tells you what is going on before the mind
100%.
knows. Like,
yes.
Look at like diseases or illnesses, conditions, like, and like you said, and safety is a feeling in the body. It's that nervous system regulation, which is also really important. Again, I'm not trained in that, but it's just something I've done myself. And it's like you say, it's so important, because if you don't have that foundation of safety with the nervous system regulation, with the emotional regulation, with the trust of your adult self to hold your child self, then you're just gonna drop the ball, if want for a better way of putting it. Like, I literally wrote a post about this earlier. Like, you might have a 6, 7, 8 figure business, but you can't hold that because you don't have the safety. You might have a dream home, you can't hold that. You might go on a dream vacation, you can't hold that. You might have a dream relationship, you can't hold that.
Oh, and that's a common one.
That's
a common one, right?
Like, self-sabotage. And literally, just quickly on, if people haven't seen my post that I shared last night, because this is so topical, of course, divine timing, is I realized that actually I was creating the roller coaster of not just money in my business, but also like highs and lows in my relationship with myself, with my partner, with my family. It would be like intense love, then intense conflict, intense love, then intense conflict. And it was coming from this addiction to suffering. And I definitely wasn't going to get to that realization quickly. Like, I knew that there was a lot to uncover first, because that's like the deep root of it. And then, you know, when you say that aloud, you're like, how can you be addicted to suffering? But whatever was your reality as a child, or past
Oh
lives
God.
or
Yeah.
ancestral stuff, like that is going to be your, as I channeled last night in my post, your like central magnetic point. And like wherever you go, like a boomerang, it's going to pull you back. So no matter how far away you get from suffering, unless you like pull the plug on that suffering, it's always going to pull you back to, unless you like change that central magnetic point to something else, it's always going to stay as suffering and pull you back. And yeah, it was just such a like fascinating realization, like the biggest of my entire life. Like, and I'm not saying that like just for it to sound amazing, like it really was. And I felt interesting about past lives. I felt like a coil in my belly that was like unfurling, like untying itself.
Oh wow.
And last week one of my mentors asked me how money feels, and I said it feels like a tightness in my belly. And I knew that that was generations old. Wow. Like that's not my lifetime. That's like since my soul's, I think probably since my first lifetime. That is, that coil has been there. And it was like the tears and the shedding and the purging was like, so if anyone's experienced this, you'll know, like when you clear like ancestral or past life stuff, like
it's intense at times.
So intense. The tears were flowing, and it was just like this huge relief and expansion and lightness and space in my belly of just like, for lifetimes of generations, I have been addicted to suffering. And this is where that the cycle stops. And it's like, and yeah, like just to say for like for people that, yeah, that wasn't just like, that didn't just happen. Of course.
Exactly.
It's not just like one day I was like, had this realization that I'm like, what the fuck, where did that come from? Like, you know, it's you, and I kind of feel like you like, and well, we create everything, right? We are the co-creators with source, but we invite things in. So it's almost like we invite in conversations like this to integrate or to alchemize or to activate. And then or mentors and posts that we see online or articles that we read or signs outside. And it's just like, I find that whole, anyway, that's a separate conversation.
That's a whole other, I actually, you're probably the same way, but people tell me stuff from their dreams to me. Like I have, like, my guides are busy. Like they're like, they tell people to tell me things. And like, I get messages and they're like, oh, I had this dream about you and you're doing this. And like, this is what you're supposed to be doing next. Like, it's wild. Like once you get tapped in, the universe just sends you stuff like in every way, right? It's insane. Like it blows my mind. I'm like, what?
I love that. I mean, I'm not
crazy.
At all. So you saying you visit other people in their dreams?
I have. I'm not conscious of it yet. Like I travel in the astral plane, but I'm unaware that I do it. But I'm aware after. Like I'm not aware in the moment. But it's like, and then people will tell me things, and they'll be like, "Oh, we did this together," or I'll have like a messenger, like a guide or something, tell them something in a dream, and then they'll tell me. Like it's like a game of like spiritual telephone. Like I just like tell her this. Like it's so weird.
So I love that. I imagine them with like walkie-talkies, like
or they'll, or maybe they won't give it to me because maybe I'll question it, right? But they'll give it through somebody else because then it's like, you know what I mean? It stands out more.
Yeah.
So they know what they're doing.
They're like, this is how she'll pay attention to us.
Yes. Yeah, they know what they're doing. Yeah, but that is a whole other conversation. But it's like, I was going to ask you a question because for me, like a recent thing that I've integrated has been feeling safe with myself around money. So there's been a lot of safety with money that I've had to like unlock. And like this one has been am I safe to have money? Because I was self-abandoning. So if whenever in the past I received excess, now excess to me wasn't a lot, but it was excess to me.
Right.
Okay. Right. So it's like I have more than I need to pay my bills, and I have more than I need. So I would immediately self-abandon, and if anybody else needed money, family members, friends, right, I'd
Right.
immediately give the money away. Right? So it's like I knew at a deep level subconsciously that like if I received a large amount of money or if I made a large amount of money through my business, I would spend it, I would give it away because I didn't feel safe with it. So was that something that you had a thing with, or that wasn't one of your blocks, shall we say?
No, 100%. It was and oh gosh, so many things are like coming through right now. So the first thing I want to say, which is like, oh my gosh, if I knew this before, this is what I have to say, because I'm like, if I knew this before, like when people say, you know, just change your beliefs, just like, and this is not me like naysaying or like criticizing or anything, but like, or people like just tap on your beliefs, just tap them, just, you know, release them, just get rid of them. Like that is, well, that is toxic because it doesn't work. Because what you have to do, in my experience, at least, I can only speak from my experience, is that it got to the, so this is the journey. So obviously I've lost a lot of money 3 times in my business in 2.5 years. And I know that it's a cycle I learned from my mum and my stepdad, because they've lost money in the past, and we actually lost our family home when I was 16. So it's like, it's been a cycle. It's a cycle in my family to make money and lose money, make money and lose money. And I know ancestrally it's a thing, and I know that in past lifetimes it's also a thing. So very deeply rooted thing that you're not just gonna tap out.
No. My affirmation, I keep all my money. I keep all my money.
It's like that, like light shit, like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not against tapping or any of the light stuff.
No, I know.
Sometimes you need the deep alchemy shadow shit.
You often do.
Yeah. And so what happened? So anyway, a lot of shame and judgment came up. Oh my God, we're doing this again. Why do I keep repeating my mum and stepdad's mistakes? I thought I was done with this. I thought we were over this. Thought we were past this. Yeah, so much judgment and shame. And then I got to a place of compassion, and a place of, and I feel like you can only, I've never thought this before, but it's coming through. You can only be curious if you have compassion. So I had the compassion, and then I was able to be curious about, okay, why did this happen? If we are co-creating with source at all times, which we are, I co-created this. So how and why?
Right.
More importantly, why? The how doesn't really matter. Why did I create this? You know, what was creating it? And then I started to like think deeper, and I was like, what was creating me losing money 3 times? And then I thought, well, why do I was like, is it that I think money is bad? And this is where you have to really dig deep, because on a surface level, you're going to be like, no, of course not. Money is amazing. I love money. Great. Give me all the money, universe. Yeah. But then when I, again, went deeper, because I'm like 5'1" in human design, and the one line is the investigator. So I love to go deep and keep going deeper. So I went deeper, and I was like, okay, so money is, I was like, oh, is an abundance of money unsafe? Like, or if it is, why is an abundance of money? Why does that feel unsafe? And then some like crazy stuff came up, and I was like, what the? I was like, but it sounded crazy, but I was like, but this is it. This is the reason. So what it was is, and I literally shared this in my post, as a child, chaos was my norm. So, and then I've known this for years. So then I was like digging deeper into, okay, well, what's that create? What beliefs has that created, and what is that creating in my adult life? And then I realized, oh my goodness, I have a belief, well, amongst many, I have a belief that you can only, like, you have to experience polarity. Like, you have to experience the extremes of life to live a full life. because that's what I've seen with my mum and my stepdad. And I also saw that when the times were bad because of money, it meant that the times when we had money were amazing. So it's like you have to have polarity, extreme polarity, to feel good, to experience good things. It's almost like what came through, so much came through, is like that, like the prize is only worth it if you had to sweat for it. Like if you know, you can only appreciate something if you've not had it, like that whole thing. So imagine, right? This is all happening in my subconscious, working its magic, because it does, and creating my external reality. The other thing was, so that was one of the things, in summary, is that it's actually a good thing to experience bad things, because it brings families closer together. Crisis builds connection. And if things are plain sailing and you got money all the time, you've got stability all the time, you've got security all the time, you've got safety all the time, well, you're going to have disconnection. You're not going to have much connection or intimacy in your family. And you're not going to, therefore, you're not going to have much love, or the other way around. And you're not going to experience the highs because you haven't had the lows. So it was like this addiction and attachment to highs and lows. Like, I need to have the lows to know what the highs are. And if I don't have the highs and the lows, then I just have the middle ground. And the middle ground is boring and unsafe, and there's no connection or no love in the middle ground. So now you can see how I was creating the highs and lows, the roller coaster. Because to me, it was like, the roller coaster makes life fun. It makes life exciting. It means highs and lows, which builds character, which builds connection. You know, life is boring if everything's just plain sailing and good all the time. Now, obviously, on a nervous system level, the roller coaster ride ain't good.
No,
it is not good at all. And what's interesting, timing wise, of course, is that my stepdad passed away in January, and he was my safety. He was the person that loved me unconditionally. And so him, what I felt like being snatched away from me was like a part of me had died, and that part of me was the safety. So the universe is like saying, Lizzie, now it's time to stop putting your safety in other people, my stepdad, or even my partner. I've had conversations with my partner about this, or in money, and it's time to start building safety from the inside.
Yes.
And that your inner child never had. I mean, the only safety that my inner child had was my stepdad. He was the only constant, because no matter what happened, he would be the one he was the glue of the family. He was the one holding the family together, because my mum, bless her, had a lot of like mental health issues and stuff, and she couldn't handle the financial stress. So it was like, isn't the timing so interesting that like, you know, and I would talk to my mum about this someday. I mean, I don't know if she's ready to receive. We talk about this and saying that my stepdad passing on is the best thing that's happened. She's on that level. My mum is spiritual.
Oh,
but
wow.
I don't think she's ready to, which is like amazing.
That's amazing.
I don't think she's ready to receive this level yet. So I'm going to wait for the divine guidance for when she shares this. But I know that she will understand it and be on my wavelength. I know that she will, because she is connected to her soul, to her spiritual origin.
Beautiful.
But yeah, anyway, I don't know why I went into so much detail about that, but
no, that's good.
There's even more to it. That
I can relate to that too, like the struggle. And I realized the other day, I felt like I was keeping myself small financially, because I felt like that was the last lesson, like not the last lesson, but like the last big shift in my life. Like, I've overcome a lot, and it kind of feels like money was the final on the pedestal, money's the final thing that you're gonna master. And it kind of felt like the story was like, okay, so after you have this, obviously there's always levels and expansion, but it's like, okay, after you're now out of, getting through the day and now you're into abundance, it kind of felt like lonely, like you're gonna be on your own, like, because there's nobody really. I mean, this isn't a factual story, but this is the story, right? This is what the story is saying. There's nobody that can understand you or give you guidance or give you the support now that you're at a different like place than most people. Because I'm already an oddball, right? I'm already an oddball in society. I'm already different. I've always been
misfits for the win.
My whole existence has been different.
I love that.
Which is part of my life, right? It is what it is. And it kind of felt like, well, now you're really going to be in another freaking stratosphere. Like,
yes. So it's fear of abandonment, isn't it?
Fear of abandonment, absolutely. And kind of a fear of like, I'm not going to have guidance almost. Even though the guidance is, oops. And now I have family calling me, of course, right? They feel the
I feel it.
Yeah. So it's like, obviously the guidance is internal. The guidance is meant to be my own guidance, right? My higher self, God, source, universe, my soul is the guidance. And it's kind of like I'm now at a point where I'll be letting go of like any outside influence. Of course, I'm going to ask, people's professional opinions. Like, I'm not going to just be like, I know accounting, I know how to be a doctor, I know how to be a lawyer. Like, obviously that kind of stuff you let people do. But it's like the overall thing in my life, it's like, no, you're the guidance. You are your own guidance. And that kind of felt so weird to me. And like, I'm really just out here. Like,
yeah. They do say though, don't they? Like the awakening or ascension journey or whatever you want to call it does feel extremely lonely at times, because it is a solitary journey. Well, we're all as one. There's no such thing as separation, but it feels like a very solitary journey and process.
Right. And it feels that way. Yeah. At times.
And then you remember, you're like, we're all as one. There's no such thing as separation. And then instantly you connect to that oneness and you're like,
yes. You're like, oh.
Yes. I was going to ask you earlier, like going back to, and if anyone has any questions, Monica, I'm loving your engagement and interaction about what you've experienced, and this is so good for the highest good of all this conversation. I'm loving it.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, what has been your, because I know the human mind likes to know the how and stuff. So in terms of your we all know that, in terms of your healing journey, like and let's just say modalities for the sake of word, like tools and modalities that you use for holding space, for creating that inner safety, that unconditional safety within that foundation that you can then build from and hold from. Like how have you managed to do that?
Yeah, so the most potent things, and I'm sure it's going to evolve and grow, like I always get new downloads, and like now I'm kind of moving into a phase where it's like I'm using my own spiritual codes and gifts more so than like, like I have my own unique healing abilities. But as far as other things that are, it's been a journey. It's like I'm moving more into that. But as far as like things that are kind of commonplace and like things people know, like I started off with Reiki, EFT tapping. I still enjoy and do. Emotion code is a really powerful modality. So I like to help people, especially who maybe they identify as having like anxiety, maybe they identify as having, PTSD or TPTSD. It really is removing the energy around that, right? Because when you have, an instance or maybe a series of instances that compound the trauma, it's literally like, if you can imagine it, it might look different, but for example's sake, like imagine them as like balls of like darkness, like in your like in your physical body and like in your energy field as well. And so it's just piled and piled and piled and piled and piled and piled. And people have, on average, especially if you've been through like trauma, like thousands of these thousands. And then when you add in ancestral and like, it's heavy. So you really can't access safety until you clear enough of these. Now, not saying you have to be 100% clear. You don't have to be 100% clear, but clear enough to then be able to feel safe. Because how can you feel safe when you have grief, trauma, fear, panic, terror, like hundreds of these energy balls attached to you? Like that is something like you were saying before, mindset, you can't be like, I'm safe. And meanwhile this energy is speaking and talking and like,
two different things
happening. Like, what are you talking about? And then you're like, and then you're saying like you're safe for like what, how long? 5 minutes a day. But this energy down here is 100% of the day. This energy down here is always switched on. So I take my clients through like a cleansing process first, where we release lots of energy first. Then I'm at the same time giving them ways to imprint safety in their body. So obviously grounding, going outside, with intention. So you do everything with intention. It's not enough to just, I'm just going for a walk and like whatever. It's like, no, like you go outside with intention. You put your feet in the ground with intention. There's meditations I give people. There's imagery. There's affirmations and things if you feel called to that. But also root chakra work. So I also recommend root chakra, the chakra system in general. But speaking of safety, the root chakra is important because that is the energy center. Like if you guys don't know, at the base of your spine, red is the color of it. And this is your basically primary safety energy ball. So it's like, if this is off, like, and trauma affects this, right? So trauma affects the safety. Of course, environmental factors too, food, your thoughts, of course, too, but primarily trauma. So people that have traumatized, typically their root chakra is totally like almost shut down, right? It's hardly active. So I really give them a lot of exercises and tools to help bring energy back into that, along with the energy work that we do and embodying that safety. So that's usually where we start. That's like that's the starting point for people. And then as time goes on, you get easier and easier at regulating yourself. Like when you get into a state of panic or fear, like, of course I still feel anxiety from time to time. I still feel fear from time to time, but I'm so easily able to just be like, I move it and it's done. Like it's not something that's like a day long scenario, unless of course it's something really tragic. You're allowed to be upset, you're allowed to grieve, you're allowed to be human and throw in the towel for the day, or of course, but things, old patterns that aren't truths, that are just lingering energy or lingering beliefs, like I can very easily move that aside. So
I love
hope that answered your
there's like so much. Some of the stuff you mentioned, like I'd forgotten about, so I'm glad that like it's so nice to be reminded and like remember I forgot about that tool, or I forgot about but funnily enough I was doing some like root chakra work this morning, so that's
awesome.
That's like literally so perfect, and grounding in outside and in nature, and it's like the energy work. I feel like when you kind of begin the healing journey, or even at points during the healing journey, you get like frustrated and you're just like, like I just want to be healed, like I don't want this stuff to keep, especially if it's like I was saying, thanks Annika.
See, it's a winner.
It's a winner. Matches my orange on my top.
Yes.
But because of our ego is like, it wants to fix things, right? And it's so important to understand the purpose of, like, what's the purpose of the ego, what's the purpose of the body, what's the purpose of our emotions, what's the purpose of all these things, so that then we don't make anything bad, because the ego isn't bad, the body isn't bad, emotions aren't bad, your inner child isn't bad, trauma isn't bad, like none of it is bad. They're all messengers. They all just have a purpose some have a purpose that, you know, serves you. Some have a purpose that doesn't serve you sometimes. Like your ego tells you to not run in front of a bus. Like sometimes it serves you.
Exactly.
You know, when you're wanting to, you know, get to next level in your business and it's holding you back, obviously it's not serving you. But what I was finding is I'm an emotional authority in human design, and I've really, like, that's been a whole journey with like understanding my emotional waves and like you know, seeing the comparison thing, seeing people like who are very regulated and like kind of, I don't want to say neutral because nobody's like neutral all of the time, but you know, just more grounded. And I was like, oh my God, my energy is so different. And you know, sometimes our energy can be influenced by trauma, and obviously there's healing to be done there, but sometimes our energy is just our energy, and the way we're made. And for me, it was like the emotional highs and lows is just the way that I'm made. I'm a Gemini as well, so air sign, flighty, frantic, all over the place. Like there's some acceptance work to do there.
Absolutely.
And I was realizing that like anytime emotions were coming up, like if it was excitement, and actually I did some work on this morning, if it was excitement, it was like, yes, like love this emotion, I'm gonna embrace this emotion, I'm gonna compound this emotion, because you know, you go back to your childhood. I went back to my childhood and I realized it wasn't safe for me to feel emotions that were negative. You know, I could show joy, excitement, happiness, those were fine, but nobody could hold me in, or at least I felt like they couldn't, in sadness, in fear, in anxiety, in frustration, in anger. So I noticed that I had all of these like emotions pressed at like everything's like in my like belly and my root and my sacral solar plexus. It's all in there. And I noticed all of my emotions had been like, the negative ones had been pushed down. And like any time they like rose up, I would just push them down because it was so painful and uncomfortable. And frankly, I saw it as an inconvenience. I was like, oh, I don't have the time or energy to deal with this, like to deal with this fear right now. But you're so right. Like emotions are beautiful portals and messengers. And but actually, I'm going to share something really vulnerable. If you want to do a vulnerable share as well, I mean, this whole thing is vulnerable, but like this is literally something I've been working through like today. So this is hot
fresh off the press. Yeah.
Fresh out the oven. This is like fresh bread right here. So I've signed up to this retreat in October. It's a 3-day retreat, and it's quite a big investment. And I realized today I don't even remember registering my interest. Like I don't even remember. So I'm like, it must have been soul led if I don't even remember. And anyway, it's called Eden Recoded, and like the word Eden, because I've been talking and playing around with the whole like heaven on earth concept, and that, and kind of stepping into like the awakening process, and being interdimensional and all of that stuff. So I was like really curious about it. And anyway, I signed up because I felt the pull, and so much anxiety was coming up about this retreat. Like, Lizzie, you don't know anything about this retreat. You've paid all this money. It might be rubbish. You know nothing about it. There's this other retreat that's longer, that's less money. You should have signed up to that retreat. You barely know the woman that's running the retreat. What are you doing? Like all of this like mind chatter and like fears and doubts and everything. But then you come back to soul, and soul is like, I realized that I'd been thinking about going on the retreat, but I hadn't thought about not going on the retreat. So then I was like, let's feel into how my body feels if I wasn't to go on the retreat. And then I was like, my body felt like, no, you got to go on this retreat. And I was like, shit, so I've got to go on this retreat. Like my body was like, there's codes to be unlocked. You know, there's things like you got to go on this retreat. Like you gotta do it. And even that in itself, in combination with all of the like money work I've been doing recently, culminating to the big shift and realization yesterday, and the, you know, unfurling of the coil that I was talking about in my belly for generations and centuries. I came to the conclusion that, you know what, like, this has to be soul guidance, because like I said, I don't remember signing up for this retreat. I barely know anything about it, but yet when I feel into my body, aside from the fear, when I feel into my body of like what my soul is guiding me to do, there's this like knowing, and this like, you know how like your soul can be a bit sassy sometimes, and it's just like, you're doing this.
God, yeah, they're harsh at times.
Like, we think our ego could be harsh, but the soul could be. So my ego is like, you're not doing this. My soul's like, you are doing this, and I'm like,
yeah.
And that you know, I've had that tug and pull. I've had that for a while, and that's interesting to navigate. But you know, so the initial point that I was going to make about this, which followed on from what we were talking about before, is that the lady running the retreat said to me, she was like, and this like hit so deep, and I feel like this is going to hit really deep for like anyone watching, listening. When you take a step that's like an activation in itself, that's like the key to a portal to your next level, essentially, that's what I see it as. Fear is inevitable. Like, the fear is going to come up because your ego is just trying to protect you from your greatness, because of all the unknowns and things that come with that. So when she said to me, that is the reason why this fear is coming up, that's when I came back into the deep inner soul knowing of, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this, because, and it's not like have to do this from ego. It's like, there's something, and this takes major trust, because I have no freaking clue what it is, but there is something in this retreat, something that's going to happen there or afterwards, or something's going to unlock. I might not even realize it for 6 months. Who knows? But something is going to happen, and it's already happening clearly, because I'm being activated and I'm experiencing shifts already, and it's in October. And there is a thing about that like when you invest in something, the activations and the shifts start happening. Like, it doesn't actually require, as coaches and healers, we think from our ego that we have to do so much for our clients, and that we have to, you know, it's the proving, it's the people pleasing, it's the overgiving, when actually, like, you could just sit on a call in like, we could just sit on this live in silence, in like as our higher selves, and you know, in our energy, and we would activate people and transform people. And that's
so funny you're saying that.
I don't know why I just said that.
That's been coming up for me a lot in my sorry.
Sorry, go. I feel like I'm done with that story anyway about the retreat.
That's
I just had to share
my guides speaking through you again. They're always like, because that's something that I've had to work through too. It's like this ego of like, you know, I've got to overgive. I've got to do all these things and have all these worksheets and, you know, things people do, and it's like you just like what you just said. They're like, you just sitting there is enough. Literally, when you're tapped in, right? When you're in the energy, you just sitting there is enough. And it's like, that is so scary for the ego. Like, oh my God, what?
I didn't have to do anything. Like, there's nothing. And you know what? Like, I've worked with a couple of awakening ascension mentors now, and like, they all say the same. They all say there is actually nothing to do. Like, being in the now is the only thing to do. And I was saying I had like, this has been a conversation of 10 conversations, and I said,
right.
Did I say this to you, or did I say this to somebody else? I'm like, no, I said this to you. It's like, I was about to say, like, I was about to be like, I had a conversation earlier, and I'm like, no, that was this conversation. But so I had a conversation with my ex-mentor earlier about like being in the now, and she said something that I've heard a million times before, but it just, you know, something just hits different because like the shifts have happened for like it to just really be like absorbed. And the remembrance was like so deep, and she was like, being in the now is like I just said, all you need to do. That is the secret, because when you are in the now, there's no ego, there's no beliefs, there's no attachment. What does that mean? That means there's no resistance. What does that mean? That means that you are literally, and then I felt myself just as this open portal, like all of the blocks were being removed, and like things were just like flowing in and out of me. And that's literally as easy and effortless as it gets to be. And as another, this is also coming through, another one of my ascension mentors always says, you are all at once. So you know how people talk about like being like an interdimensional being, or like, you know, being an alien or whatever. We are all those things at once. We're not human and then we're alien. We are human and alien at once. It's just that there are different layers. And same with time. Time is now. It's just that there are different timelines within the now. So when people talk about quantum leaping and jumping timelines, that's literally what they mean. And with me, with that like shift around money, I jumped like, I mean, I could have lived another 1,000 lifetimes and still not have, you know, shifted that. So that's jumping timelines, like
exactly,
even in itself. So like we are everything at once. And I love how she puts it. She says like, we are the wave and the particle. Like we are the boat that's on the ocean, and we are the captain, and we are the watchman, and we are the ocean, and we are the boat, and we are all the things all at once. It's like I know.
Yeah, that's amazing, because like, so lately I've been called to talk more about higher self, and it's like it just feels something I'm just meant to talk about, right? But it's like higher self isn't like the end all be all. It's like a personality, right? It's like there's God, there's source, there's higher self. I'm like, there's like goddesses that are like in my energy field that are like talking to me. There are that. You know, there's my guides. Like it's just different, like it's different reflections of like the same thing, right? And like I feel like sometimes you need maybe an aspect of a certain personality, for lack of a better word, or being. You need an aspect of that being that's stronger than maybe this aspect of this being. And I feel like that's why these different energies come in, and maybe there's aliens and galactic federations and all kinds of things, because it needs to be expressed in a certain way for you to get to the lesson. Like maybe you wouldn't get the lesson if you were just speaking to God. Maybe you wouldn't get the lesson if you were just speaking to the Galactic Federation or your higher self, right? It's like you need different layers to maybe integrate something at a certain point in your journey, right? But it's all, to me, from what I believe and what I feel, it's all the same thing at its core.
It's all the same. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I love the like I love the idea of seeing it as layers rather than like I mean, I for one used to see like the universe, God, source as outside of me, and that was the first step, was realizing like I am that, and that is me. We are all as one. We are, you know, a circle. And then, you know, once I kind of understood that, that's when I started to interact with, like you say, archangels and aliens and other intergalactic, interdimensional beings. And they are not like, it's not like one's over here, one's over here, one's over here, one's over here. They're like stacked. And that's almost how I see it, like a stacking. And it's like when you're astral projecting, for instance, like maybe you are like I don't know, in the seventh dimension. So you've just gone to a different layer. It's not anything that's separate. It's all
Right.
within the now. Or
Yes,
like,
yes.
and then you're like back to whilst you're your alien, you're still God. You're still human.
Yeah, exactly.
You're still the archangel. You're still the goddess. Like, you are all of them at once.
Yes. Yes. It's amazing.
I don't even know how we got onto this topic.
I don't know.
We started talking about safety, and now we're talking about like being an interdimensional being.
It's fun. But yeah, it's really cool. I just love this journey. I love this work. I love that, you know, I have connections like you and people like you in my field and my world, and I get to just gobble all this up. It's just amazing. Oops, I'm kicking my stand here.
I love it. I love it. This has been like such an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking of starting well, I did have a podcast, but I'm thinking of relaunching it and like maybe putting like this on there, for instance. We'll see. We'll see how that feels. But just like, yeah, these really like, this has been so activating for me, for you, for us, you know, for the collective. So and like, going back to what we were saying earlier, it's like the energy is still it doesn't matter. Like, there's been, you know, max 4 people on here. That doesn't mean that there's only been 4 people or 6 people, including us, connected in. Like, that's where you like, that in your field, I mean, in the collective, like, whoa, it's like infinite, the people that we impact with our energy. And then
it's wild.
It's like the energetic algorithm. Forget about the social media algorithm.
Oh, I know. Just calling it in through that. It's crazy. But I also, okay, I want to bring up one last thing around money. So this is something that like I haven't this isn't something that I coined. This is a friend of mine who brought this up through her guides and stuff. So I won't claim this as my own. But she talks about how money is a creative energy. Okay. So it's like you can create in a dark energy and you can also create in a light energy. And so kind of back to like the beginning of the conversation of like, you're asking me what my post was about. And it's like, I'm not saying that you created through dark energy. Like, I'm not saying that about you, but think about people who are like, let's say, drug dealers, or they're people who are, you know, hurting people, and that's how they're receiving money, right? They're in the mob or something, right? And they're wealthy, right? And they're creating wealth. It's like, money is a creative energy, so money will respond to that creativity, but the intention and the means through which you receive it create darkness in a person if that's the way they're receiving it. So they're not actually creating abundance in that scenario. They're creating like a plague. It's like it's like a sickness, right? And it's like they have an abundance of like sickness and like disease almost, and like you'll see it in their lives won't be happy, or maybe their health or whatever. It's like it's eroding you, right? Like, that's not abundance in like the true form of abundance. So it's like my throat chakra's going here. So when you're somebody like ourselves who's a light worker who genuinely cares about the earth, about other people, about the planet, you of course can still create money, but that's also going to require more because you're going to have to pass more tests. Let me just put it that way, to have the integrity, right? Because when you do have an abundance of money, and let's say, well, I believe that I'm going to be a billionaire in this lifetime, and you probably will too. I believe that. So when you're a billionaire, how much power do you have, right? How much opportunity do you have to influence others' lives? And if you are somebody who is ruled by your ego more than your soul, the decisions you make at that level of influence on this planet affect so many more people. Right? So if you're on the path, like if you're somebody who's a conscious billionaire, right, you're gonna make decisions that, you know, put plant more trees and feed more people and help and whatever, right? Like your influence is going to be huge in the positive, and so is the reverse, right? If you're creating money in a dark way, your influence is going to be a dark energy, and it's going to be influencing the masses in a dark energy. So the integrity level that you have to be a conscious billionaire is up here, right? So that's also part of the journey of like your soul, and like why I feel so many light workers have to do deep work and have tests and have, you know, ascension processes, because it's like, okay, so when you're a billionaire and you literally could be like, you know, somebody does something horrible or tries to do something horrible to you, right? And you're at this level and you're a billionaire, you could ruin that person's life. You could pick up a phone and be like, make something happen, right? If you're an ego. But when you're at that level and you want to be spiritual and you want to be a conscious person, you can't make decisions like that. You can't operate in that darkness, in that density. Right? So it's a higher standard, and that's why I feel it takes maybe a little bit longer. Not even that long, because like you said, time doesn't exist, right? It's like, but maybe a little bit longer, maybe more tests, maybe more activations, so that you actually have the integrity, so that when you're a billionaire, you're not like, oh, my ego's going to run the show and I'm just going to make decisions that take me off my spiritual path. It's like, no, you have to be on the spiritual path, and the money's going to be there, right? And so I also feel like that's a really big thing for conscious leaders and entrepreneurs and business people. It's you have to have immense integrity and values, and your spiritual path has to mean more than money. Otherwise, money and power and ego will pull you off the path as soon as your ego gets triggered. Right?
Yeah, I remember I was listening. So my previous mentor, Michaela, has got a podcast called She Wolf Impact. Check out, it's amazing. She's been on like an awakening ascension journey, and like I started mine with hers. Once I started to see things like happen for her, I was like, oh, this is very interesting. Like I want to see what's going on here. And she actually asked that question on the podcast. She's like, the way that you can like almost like diagnose your relationship with money is like, how would you feel if you received like $500 million right now? Like how would that feel in the body? And also like, what would you do with that money? And as you were talking, I was thinking about of course money is just an amplifier, it's a mirror, it magnifies what's already there, but also like it's like I love the word initiation. I'm loving that word at the moment. It's like an initiation of okay, so you want to be a millionaire, multimillionaire, billionaire, whatever it is, or it might not even be money. Okay, you want this dream divine union partnership, or you want, I don't know, to write a book. Like it's like you're being initiated and prepared for who you are required to be in that. Because 100%. And that's not to say you won't have it before, because I know I did. I wasn't prepared to receive the amount of money I received, hence why I lost a lot of it. And you know, that is my lesson. It's like, and life is about lessons, and you will keep experiencing the same thing on a loop, on a cycle, until you learn the lesson. And then that's when you can pull the plug, only then, and stop the cycle. You can't just say, I stopped the cycle, because I tried that. Like, let me journal 10 times. I stopped the cycle. I stopped the cycle. I stopped the cycle. No, like going back to earlier, you have to get to the root of why you lost the money, or why you're not making the money, or why your relationship is the way it is, or why, I mean, relationships, I could go into a whole other thing about that, because there's a whole thing with a lot of women that I see is like blaming the man for not being in his masculine. And I'm so passionate now about coaching on relationships, because me and my partner have done so much work together, to get separately and together, for me to create space for him to rise into his divine masculine, and him to create space for me to rise into my divine feminine and for us to come together. Like I tried to force him to rise. I tried to force him into his masculine. It's not gonna work, you know.
Not
He tried
gonna
to
work.
force me to do certain things, wasn't gonna work, you know. It's the invitation. That's what, like, everything in life, no matter how good or bad it feels, is an initiation. And when you view it like that, you detach the shame, the judgment, the frustration. And I don't mean, when I say detach, I don't mean like avoid the feelings, but I mean like you feel the feelings and you alchemize them, and then you sort of like, yeah, you get to a new perspective of like, no, actually, I see why this is happening. I see why I've lost money 3 times in my business. Like,
Yeah.
I see why my partner is acting this way. And oh my God, relationships, any relationship is just a mirror reflection. So whatever your mom, dad, sister, cousin, brother, kid, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner is showing you that you don't like, take a look inside, because 100% without doubt they are mirroring back to you something to work in within yourself. And it's freaking, I always say, it's not magic, it's intention, but it is so magical, because when you change that within yourself, it is like, me and my partner have not had to have many conversations with each other about this, but the way we're both rising separately, like as separate individuals, means, and of course it's a mirror reflection, and how manifestation works is if you've got like 2 people or more than one person doing it, it compounds and it speeds up. But we it's the energy, it's the mirroring. We haven't had to say much to each other. And that is like, when you are going back to earlier, everything's so connected to this conversation. I love it. It's like a sacred beautiful sacred geometry, like sacred vortex. I'm seeing like a diamond. Going back to earlier, it's like, when you are connected to your higher self, the energy of your higher self, not just your higher self, but for the highest good of all, your energy speaks. You don't have to speak. I don't have to say to my partner whatever it might be, want to have sex with me, want to take me out for dinner, you know, all of these things that we desire of our men, because as women we are created to receive, you know, and it's our divine right to desire that of our I don't just want to say men, because maybe you're not with a man, but of our partner. I don't have to request of him, or, you know, do any kind of voodoo on him, like do this to me or whatever.
Like on TikTok, the whisper method, where you're trying to manipulate people with
I haven't
the energies.
seen that.
Oh my God, no. Oh God.
You don't have to do that, because energy speaks volumes. Like energy just, and energy moves freaking, like light travels faster than sound. So that doesn't say it. Anyway, I don't even know how I got on that topic as well. We're just manager and Gemini. I'm just like,
it's all allowed. It's all allowed. Yeah, so it's a really amazing, deep conversation. So I think it's just a matter of trusting your journey, as long as you're on the path, which I'm sure everyone watching this is, and you're doing the work as it shows itself to you, and you're in it, like, you're gonna get there, you know, you're gonna get there. And it does take a little level of integrity and a little longer time, I think, than maybe somebody who is like, and again, it could be a year. Like, it might not be a long time. I'm not talking 30. I'm not talking 30 years here. I'm talking just, you know, when you see somebody who, for example, someone who makes, I don't know, who sells shoes, right? Like, my personal belief is like, if you're doing a business that is like more, I call it muggle world business, right? You don't necessarily need the same initiations as somebody who wants to be a healer or coach, or, you know, an energy worker. Like, it's different. So it's like, I don't want people to judge themselves like, oh, I didn't make $1 million my first year as a coach or a healer. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're not selling shoes here. It's not like, it's not the same thing. Like it's a different, it's a different game. And like,
yeah.
be patient with yourself and have compassion,
Mm-hmm.
and you will get there.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And also like, just as a last takeaway, like so again, one of my Ascension mentors, she had $1 million month, 2 in a row.
Wow.
She had 2, and like she has other businesses outside of coaching. She has like, I don't know, like investments and stuff. But she is the perfect example of someone who is the true divine embodiment of being first, like being first, and then taking aligned action from that place, because she actually had a recent burnout because her human was trying to interfere and control things and manipulate things and obsess over things, and that was a lesson for her. But what she shared is that when you and this is like not common, this is not new information, sorry, like you've heard this before, but when you lean back and you give yourself time to rest and you create that, like my thing at the moment is like space, creating that expansive space to like breathe or journal or cry. Hi Simone. I realized Simone was here, just saw her little face pop up. That is when you receive the divine guidance, and that divine guidance could jump you 5 timelines. Whereas like, say if you're in your human doing mind, ego mind, you're gonna imagine figuring out how to have $1 million month. Like, you'd be like, well, I'd have to sign 10 clients at $100,000 each. Like, that's the only way I think you would work out.
I know.
So also like when you, and this is like a whole other Ascension conversation about becoming one with, you are the wave and the particle, becoming one with the universe. She calls it the I am field, where you are in that state of receiving mode that I was talking about earlier, where you're just like completely open. And when you can activate that, and you know how to activate that, and it's really, really freaking simple, you get into that state of like permanent receiving, you will be shocked, because I know I have, by how quickly, because time goes out the window, like no such thing as time anymore, by how quickly things come in to your field. It's like, so there's also
juicy.
that aspect as well.
I love that.
We can talk about that another time. That's a whole other conversation. Today was about the human and the safe foundation, which you gotta have. Again, I'll just share like about my journey regarding like ascension. I approach ascension and awakening and spiritual work from a place of suppressing my human and wanting to bypass my emotions, and I rocketed up and I came crashing down again. And now I'm coming at from a place of I am the human and I am the spirit at once, at one even, and I'm creating the safe foundation for my human, so that my spirit, higher self, God, whatever you want to call it, can, play in higher realms, be in the I am field, be in this permanent state of being and receiving. And you can only do that if you have the safety within the human.
100%. And also like when you're somebody who maybe naturally has an open upper chakras, right? Like, and you naturally maybe are psychic, or you naturally, have seen things, hear things. It's even more important to have that like root chakra safety, because it's like, if you're not rooted to earth and you're all up here, woo, again, a whole conversation, like, you've got to be rooted to then actually, connect higher to, the divine. Like, you've got to have that. It's
like an anchor.
Not fun. Yeah, it's not fun if you don't. It's really not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can so relate. Like being like my crown is like I itch my head so much because my crown is just like always like tingling. I'm always like people must think I have like lice or something, but I'm like, it's just my crown tingling. I swear. And like sometimes like I feel so sick, like so nauseous, and I'm like, okay, ground yourself, Lizzie, ground yourself, roots. And that is such a fun part of this as well, is like deepening that connection and that support with the higher realms, and then deepening that connection, that support with Mother Earth, with Gaia, whatever you want to call it. Like that is so. And actually my ascension coach that I literally keep mentioning, she calls it like she describes it as almost like a peacock, your chakras aligning as like a peacock's wings like coming into one like this. And like that's how sometimes I see it now, or I'll see like a you know, a white light, strip of white light just running through all the chakras. So yeah,
I do
anyway,
that
that's
too.
another conversation as well.
I like the white light visualization. Yeah, it's a whole other.
Oh my God, we've
I'm
been on
just
here for an hour and a half, for like almost 90 minutes. Oh my God. Sorry if I kept you too long.
No. I'm just going for a walk after this. So thank you. I really I loved it. I loved every second. And thank you everyone who stayed with us this whole time.
Yeah, thank you. I know Monica's gone, bless her, but I did have a chance to interact with her. Yeah, if you have any questions, say hey if you're on live or if you're on the replay. Yeah, if you have any follow-up questions, or yeah, if you want to share about like how people can work with you as well, maybe just to put that offering out there.
Sure. So right now I do have single sessions available. I don't normally make them available, but you can do like a single session if you have a specific area that you just want some tweaking on to do the deeper healing work around. Maybe you've been doing mindset work and affirmations. It's not quite cutting it. And you feel like you need a little oomph. I can definitely give you that oomph to clear the blocks and help you align with that goal. Also, I do like 8-week, you know, full transformation packages as well. So just feel free to like DM me, send me a message. You can follow me on my Facebook or on Instagram too. I'm at Aligned Action Divas on Instagram.
I love it.
And I have lots of good content out there for you guys to consume and just check me out. But yeah, if you feel called at a soul level, of course, connect and we'll see if we're meant to work together. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I love your content. Yeah, make sure you follow. It's Khethiwe, right?
Yes, Khethiwe. Yeah,
Khethiwe. Yeah, I remembered. And yeah, I'm like open now. I literally like I'm just like I had this realization earlier about like pigeonholing myself and boxing myself in, and now like as a Mani-Gen and a Gemini, and now I'm just like, you know what? I am just like open to all the things. So I'm like relationships or branding, or like I'm literally like thinking of bringing like horses into my work. I'm just open to anything and everything. You know, just like that open portal of just like whoever feels my energy and wants to be activate, even activated on a deep level, like come and talk. Like
you are the
fun
niche,
place to
right?
be.
You are the
niche. Yes, exactly. I love that. Well, thank you for today. This was so good. I'm thinking of like relaunching my podcast because I've got a couple of lives this week.
Beautiful.
Again, like when you're in the present moment, you get to just there's less ego intervention and there's more just soul guidance of like my soul just guided me to reach out to Khethiwe and say like, hey, do you want to go live about this topic? Because you're talking about it and I'm talking about it, and it's like seems like it would be perfect, or it would be perfect. So that's your invitation, ladies and gentlemen, if any gentlemen are here, to follow that soul's guidance as well, because it never fails you.
Never. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Love to you all.
To the UK. And when I come to visit you over the pond, I want to have a high tea together.
Oh my God, of course. We'll go to, oh my God, we should go to like a spa as well. We should go to like Champagne. Well, yeah, I'll show you around everywhere.
Perfect.
Anyone want to come to London? come and hang out.
Let's do
Mwah.
it. Let's
Lots
do
of
it.
love.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
beautiful day. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.